Hey there guys, it's Liam here again from KraieGaming, and this is the boss guide to Warmaster Blackhorn in the Raid Finder level raid of the Fall of Deathwing, which is the second half of the Dragon Soul raid. Now, this fight is fairly complex for a Raid Finder fight, but I'll go over phase 1 first. First, there are 2 harpoon guns at either side of the ship, and these pull in the Twilight Drakes from the outside of the ship, and when they're pulled in, the ranged DPS should nuke them down before they do anything else. This is priority. Next, two elites will spawn on the boat. One is a Twilight Elite Slayer and one is a Twilight Elite Dreadblade. And these should both be tanked, one by the tank and one by the off tank. And these both have abilities which do the same thing, but they have different names. And they both stack, so they both do a 40k damage in a frontal cone, in melee range, and 3k damage per 2 seconds. And they both do that, but they both have different names, so they both stack differently. So, every time they spawn, because they will keep spawning, tanks should switch between which one they're tanking. So, if you tanked Elite Dreadblade first, tank the Elite Slayer next. Okay. While this is actually, before I move on to the next thing, both of them Blade Rush, which means they target a distant player and charge them, and all players in the way of that charge get dealt 100k damage. So next we'll move on to the next things, which are the Twilight Drakes and Goriona. Twilight Drakes have these little AoEs, which you've probably seen in the video. They're like little swirls on the ground. This is where they'll hit for 200k damage, split between all players that are standing in the little AoE and the ship. Yes, the ship can die, like back in Wrath. So basically we should have like 2 or 3 players just soaking up these little AoEs just to minimise damage to the ship. The other ability is from Goriona, which is Twilight Onslaught. And this is a larger swirl which deals about 800k damage, split between all players and the ship. And what should happen is all players should tank this one, so all players stack on that. If you're feeling brave, tanks don't have to, because this will avoid the Twilight Elite's cleaves, because they cleave. So that will stop any complications between the cleave hitting anything. So tanks don't have to do this, but everyone else should. And phase 2 will start when 3 of these waves of Twilight Elites are killed. So, yeah, this will keep going on. What else can I explain about this? Because I feel like I've not explained it very well. It's a nice idea to tank these 2 adds away from, well, close to each other so that DPS can cleave them, but face them away from each other so they're not cleaving the same direction. So now we're on to Blackhorn. Now in this phase, all range should nuke Goriona, who is a dragon flying above the fight, because she casts Twilight Flames, which can see these little circles, which will slowly cover the ship, and these deal 40k damage on impact in an 8-yard AoE. And then when you stand in these, they'll deal 30k per second, and they last on the ground for 30 seconds. So the faster Goriona is killed, the faster these stop appearing. Next is on to Warmaster Blackhorn. His first ability is Devastate, which hits the tank for 120% weapon damage, and also has a Sunder Armour effect, which reduces the armour of the tank by 20%. So we found best way to do this is to swap tanks at 2 stacks. His other ability, Disrupting Roar, which you've probably seen go outwards from him, these little yellow line things. Basically that does 50k damage to all players in the raid, and also stops all spellcasts for 8 seconds. Well, it doesn't, it interrupts all spellcasts for 8 seconds. His next ability is Shockwave, which is a huge conal AoE. It's actually huge, it will stretch to the edge of the ships in all directions, no matter where he is. And basically, this deals 100k damage to everyone in the cone, and gives them a 4-second stun. So he will give you some time to get out of this. And it does target a random player in the raid. So he could face it anywhere, so be prepared for that. And his other final mechanic is Vengeance, which means that for each percentage of health that for each percentage of health that Blackhorn has lost, he'll deal that much more damage. So if he's lost 50% of his health, he'll deal 50% more damage. If he's down to 1%, he'll deal 99% more damage, and so on. So that is the guide to this fight. I don't think I explained it very well, but hopefully this helped you. And if it has helped you, rate, comment and sub if you deem me worthy. And hopefully you'll get these videos in your subs. I've had a really bad ending. Sorry about the amount of deaths I had there. This was my first time, to be honest, and I did fail quite a bit, so I'm sorry about that. But yeah, rate, comment, sub if you deem me worthy, and I'll see you later.